All right. Hey, just wanted to throw together a little idea. This is just to be clear for everyone watching. This is Norroth Online, but what I'm about to go through is just a game design exercise for myself. A suggestion to the developer, but mainly just something I enjoy doing. Um, Designing features for games and working on my own. So Norroth Online has several crafting skills, um, and depending on who you talk to and as you play the game, they have varying levels of usefulness and frequency of use. And so, whenever you have something as large as crafting in your game, you want to make sure that that's being utilized ideally to the kind of the highest level of fun that it can be. Player engagement with that particular profession is important, and if it's not utilized, it's worth looking into and asking how can this be improved. So, just for transparency's sake, I have asked the player base on 4 different occasions at 4 different times of the day to try to get answers from folks that live at different points around the world and play at different times and times of the week. So this isn't purely coming just from my imagination, but for the most part, cooking is, I would say, underutilized, grossly underutilized. Cooking in Norroth, and the reason why I wanted to kind of mull around this idea is because cooking is the kind of it's the craft for what you get in terms of fishing, farming, hunting, and what was that? That's another farming one. So at least three different activities in the game. Um, at least 3 different activities in the game will give you will give you these things, and for each one of these, I can make a simple craft using just one of the material, a medium craft, or like a difficult craft, or whatever you want to call it, but it uses up more of the material. Now, if you were just farming, hey, what am I working on? I am reviewing a game called Norroth Online. I'm reviewing its cooking feature and trying to assist the developer with an idea of how to make it a little bit more useful, a little bit more powerful for the player base. This is a online game. You can see there in the URL. It's norroth.com. Now, if you were just going to grind for experience, the best return on your investment is that first one, right? Using one fish at a time will give you a total of 24 crafts, as opposed to using 3 at a time. It'll only give you 8 crafts. So a lot of people produce that first one, right? And so there's the fruit, there's the meat, there's the vegetable, and of course the mixed, which I thought actually was a pretty fun combination of the two. Right, here's meat with the sweet potato, which is a more rare drop, the fish and the vegetable. So I'm not going to say the problem, but where the opportunity is the players of this game are heavily relying on potions because they work in combat. Food does not work in combat. So these things, food gives two bonuses. The first is an immediate heal, right? So if I eat this mucky beef stew, I immediately get 50 health HP restored, and then it provides me a buff for 9 minutes. And this can be like a health regen or a mana regen buff, and that's nice. The difference between the food and the potion is that once you're in combat, and you start losing health, there's no way for you to eat more to restore health. You have to use potions. So most players will rely on potions because that is the most convenient to use when you really need it. It's easy enough outside of combat to wait for your health to go back up, and you can even use potions outside of combat. So what I liked here was I liked the crafting system and how the resources of fishing, farming, and hunting are used to make all of these items, right? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's 16 different things you can craft or cook per tier, right? So players at a higher combat level would use things like these medium quality, right? And these would heal now for 425 hit points instead of just 50. So, you know, this thing's going to scale up with your player base, and so I think it's very it has an important role in everyone's play. Now, the thing with potions is potions are given away as sort of like a daily prize. You can get them now and then when hunting, but they're locked away under the profession of alchemy, and alchemy cannot be done by every class. Cooking can be done by every class, and this is kind of the trade-off here, right? These things work as a kind of a poor man's potion. You can only use them outside of combat, but they can be used by every single class. So I think that's pretty interesting. But anyway, so that's a bit of the overview of the skill itself. What I see as a problem is that people are not actually doing this, and they're not using the food. And so what we want to try to do in the next few minutes is just come up with a couple of suggestions on how to improve it. Now, I have a couple of suggestions that I'm not totally in love with, but I just wanted to throw it out there, and then I have kind of a final suggestion that I do think would be great. And so we'll end on that high note. So the first thing I wanted to do was I wanted to show you one of the ideas I had. Now let's go play Blizzard for a second. Okay. So Blizzard here, this is how combat works. And I'm going to walk. Okay. See, and I found a hare. So their combat, for those of you familiar, I'm going to pull out the reference of Pokemon back on the Game Boy. As you walk around on this tile-based game, you will be engaged by enemies, and sometimes, especially if the mob is a high enough level, it'll auto attack you, right? So just like Pokemon, as you're traveling through the tall grass or many other games, you don't always see the enemy before it attacks you, and then you just find yourself in combat. This particular case, I can see, and I have the option here to engage in combat with this one. Now, what I thought would be interesting is if you could use the food, sort of like a potion, to augment how you engage with these mobs. So Pokemon had a potion called the Repel potion. Would be a repellent. If you wanted to walk through an area and have a reduced chance of engaging with random enemies, you would use the Repel potion. And I think that would be an excellent use here. When you are trying to travel around in this game and not wanting to auto combat your whole way through, like or randomly get pulled into combat, why not just basically eat a particular type of food that would keep certain beasts away, right? Likewise, you could have the opposite, more like a lure or a bait. Say I wanted to do more combat. How about I eat something to attract that? And there's a couple different ways you could do this. You could have, like I said, there's 16 types of food, and you could easily make more, lots of combinations of those ingredients. But you could have different sort of mobs respond to different sorts of foods, right? If you wanted more goblins, eat this. If you wanted less goblins, eat this. If you wanted more wyverns or more undead or more whatever, you can adjust the randomness of what you engage while walking around the wilderness, and I think that would be pretty interesting. There are several quests in the game, including daily quests, where you have to try to find a specific type of mob and a specific quantity of that mob. So it'd be really interesting if, knowing that I had to go kill a dozen different undead skeletons or frozen yetis or something like that, here's the particular potion or food or bait that I could set. Right, I could set, and then on this map, I know that the Yetis will spawn more often. Again, these are just ideas. Our goal is to help make cooking a little bit more relevant. Okay, the other thing is this hare is level 2. The way Norroth Online does its rarity kind of like its kind of rare spawns is sometimes you'll see a asterisk, a star, after the name of the mob, right? It'll be 1, 2, or 3 stars, and those are more rare mobs. They'll drop better loot. And so what if there was an item that would increase the likelihood of coming across a rare mob, right? So perhaps that, right? So those were a couple things that I thought. I'm not in love with either of those ideas, but it just did remind me, like, why don't, basically you're expanding alchemy or using, like, not everyone's going to use like a magic potion, but you could set out a certain type of bait and have a better outcome with your combat. I know when you are trying to craft a specific set of gear, you may want specific type of drops. You want to engage goblins instead of some other sort of wild animal. Or if you are trying to craft a new set of leather gear, you want certain items that are going to drop hides, leather. And so you don't want to fight like pirates and ghosts and things like that aren't going to give you those hides. So maybe you drop something that's going to attract more of that one type of animal. Okay. So that's that suggestion. And the one I really liked is centered around more of how potions currently work. Okay? So, not how potions currently work, but how food currently works. With the food, when you eat it, you get those two effects. One is immediate, and the other one, and this is the important one, the other one is that one that lasts for 5 minutes. All right? And I think that is something we should really capitalize on. The food, I'm going to show you guys something. Maybe I go to Brap for the gems. I'll go to Thunder for a second because I think Thunder's right at the cook. Yeah. Okay. These boosts these boosts last for 5 minutes, and you can only have one at a time. And I think this right here is where we're missing a huge opportunity. I think I do want to switch to Brap. Yeah, I'm just going to show you guys. Can I craft a jewel? So rather than it be only one 5-minute boost at a time, I think we could get into a pretty cool power-up or like buff situation if we allowed many different types of buffs to stack. And just hear me out on this, because what I am proposing is allowing essentially a dozen different types of boosts at any one time, right? But the trade-off of what I'm about to explain should hopefully create a huge demand for cooking. Okay? Allowing people to eat a lot and get different buffs should hopefully it should reinvigorate the food market, make these food things valuable, rather than right now people are just vendoring them. They're just selling them to the vendors, and they're selling them on the market like thousands at a time because there's no point for it and no one uses it. So again, keep that in mind, that this entire video is really just for let's make cooking more relevant. Now, when I craft a gem, I'm going to go in here. Let's craft a very simple gem. Okay, I'm just going to craft one of these guys. Okay, Here's a perfect example of this. Let me zoom in so that everyone can see this. Okay, I think there's 7 different colors of gems, and each color of gem has different bonuses it could potentially provide. So here, with this yellow one, lightning resistance, lightning damage, evasion, armor piece, double strike, and attack speed. Now, when I craft this gem, I think at this level it gives me what, like maybe two rolls, like two different stats, and those stats can come from this list. Those 2 can actually be the same stat, or they could be two different stats, right? So if I wanted one that gave me attack speed and evasion, I'd have to craft a lot of these gems until I get one with that particular combination, right? I've had to use, and anyone that's played Norroth and does jewel crafting knows this, I've had to craft dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens, if not hundreds, of gems to get the right sort of combination of what I want. These ones in particular are the most valuable, the purple ones, because magic find is essential for good crafting and good like hunting and looting. So every time I craft a purple gem, I could get arcane resistance, arcane damage, gold find, magic pierce, magic find, and attack speed. What I really want is I want 2 rolls of magic find. So I will craft 100 of these, if not more, hoping to get those 2 or 3 rolls. And on the higher ones of these, I think they give more. I think there's like 3, 4, 5 rolls because those numbers do get bigger. But anyway, I'm going to craft enough until I get the right combination I want. So perfect for the profession of gem crafting. There is a demand because we're throwing away 99% of what we make trying to get the one particular one that we want. And it's not just magic find. To do some of these higher level bosses, I have a clanmate right now that's trying to get this particular one right here, trying to really max out his dark resistance. So he's crafting 100 or whatever of the onyx gems, trying to get the best dark resistance he can. Thus, we need a lot of geodes, which turn into a lot of gems, which turn into a lot of jewels, and then we're throwing away 99% of the jewels. Like that, regardless of what you may think about that grind, it does create a pretty healthy economic loop, right? Where someone, because we're not really flooding the market here with a lot of useful gems. We're end up destroying or vendoring 99% of them. Okay. Can we do the same thing with food? When you eat a particular type of food, what if you got a bonus? What if you got a bonus, that 5-minute bonus? What if it was random from this list right here? And now what if, say for example, I got defense, but I really wanted dark resistance. Do I need to wait 5 minutes till that to wear off and then get my dark resistance? No. I think you should be able to eat a second piece of food right away. And it should roll again. And so I now have 5 minutes of defense, and maybe I get 5 minutes of fortitude. Okay. So now I eat again and again and again. I could eat as much to get one of each of these. And then even if I eat the food again and I get another defense, great. Now I have 10 minutes of it. And immediately some people are going to be like, oh my God, you're going to get a ton of these boosts, right? Here's all the ones for dark resistance damage, etc. The red has fire, right? And weapon attack. Here's poison, etc. I mean, there's like whatever 25 boosts here. And I'm like, fantastic. If you could tell a player that they could eat all this types of food, essentially potentially getting any of these boosts, and if they happen to roll a double, it just adds on to that time, so that I could run around for like a full hour with a bunch of benefits on. I think some people would like it. Some people would argue that it's going to be overpowered. I don't think it has to be an enormous boost. I just think some boost. Let's do something here, right? But the other thing I want to say is, if you take the time to calculate how much food each player could potentially be eating. You realize that, yeah, for the first few days of people running around like this, they're going to be pretty powerful. Then I would say it's going to actually create a lot of demand for the food to be cooked, for the food to be sourced, right? You're going to increase the available cost. People that do farming, that do fishing, are actually going to see an increase in their income, which is what you want for a healthier game economy. And those that are out doing combat aren't going to rely just on their crafted gems and their crafted equipment for their stats, but knowing, for example, and this is important too, knowing that I'm going to go up against a certain boss or a certain mob that does dark damage. Well, let me just eat 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces of food to get that dark resistance. Cool. If I go up against something that does fire damage, let me do the one for fire resistance. What's nice here too is at the moment in the game, because inventory is very limited. If you were going to effectively do this as someone that likes to do combat, you'd have to keep multiple sets of equipment for each different type of mob or conflict you'd want, or at least some pieces, like at least sets of jewelry or whatever. In the system I'm proposing, you're talking about just stacks of food, right? Yeah, maybe you have one that is the fire stack and one that's the kind of the dark stack, one that's the light stack. But at most you're like 7 stacks, and that's gonna give you a ton of different boosts. So I think overall it'll be better for inventory management as well. But yeah, I think if you could have do away with the instant heal and do more stuff that was over time, right? Ideally, it's something that wouldn't wear off when someone wasn't logged in, right? Ideally, but you could leave that up to the player. I mean, I know all the other boosts in the game are that. But essentially what I'm suggesting is a temporary time-based gem, right? And the fact that I think for the people that really, really wanted to do combat, I don't know. It'd be interesting to, again, talk to the player base and ask, but like, if you could just eat food and randomly get one of these bonuses, right? If you were going to do an hour of gameplay, wouldn't you just like eat 20 pieces of food, and that's 20 that isn't being used right now, right? It's just stuff going to the vendor, and that's 20 like per hour. And for people that like to grind on this game, here's hundreds of items, if not, I'd probably say there's hundreds of items consumed a day, which I think would be great. So anyway, that is my suggestion on how to revisit cooking. That would be my suggestion for Norroth Online. But I do just in general like that idea of kind of a temporary buff. It's kind of like a roll of the dice, right? I don't really feel like the winner loses out. Sorry, not the winner. I don't feel like the player really loses out at any point, because even though you're just rolling the dice and maybe not getting what you want, it is a bonus you're gonna get, and you can just keep going, right? And if you happen to get the same thing twice, it just increases duration. And at least you could pick certain categories, right here. This is 7 different categories of buffs. Right now, the way food does it is there's 16 different categories. So, and you could totally make more. So, anyway, right now, food is used as a cheaper potion. Absolutely, it is. And you could have a cheaper potion option. My suggestion doesn't necessarily have to replace how food is being used right now. And whether you take this as an alchemy suggestion or a food suggestion, I like the food suggestion because I don't really see that many people using food. But you could have the cheaper, more accessible potion option, because again, cooking is available for everyone. But if you wanted to, and again, this is the thing, like, look at the data. Look in the game database, look at the game log, see what people are doing. You have 16 options for food in each tier. Is anyone in the game doing 10 of those tiers? Or 10 of those items per tier? Or is everyone pretty much just settled on maybe the one particular item per tier that gives the most HP? Is that it? Out of 16 items, everyone's crafting one. So, or two, right? This is what I'm saying about how it's completely appropriate to take a look at a feature in a game, try to dust it off, and make it more fun and relevant. So anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching.